everyone. People in the back, can you please start walking back, walking in the front area? We are about to start in a minute. People sitting in front, how are you guys doing? Good, good. I see some smiles. I see some tired from the day looks as well. I hope the talks today will energize you. How many of you guys have heard of AI agents? Ha, not a big surprise then. All right. And how many have you been building AI agents? Okay, not bad. The ones who have heard about are the ones building as well. And what's the best thing about agents, AI agents that you think that is out there? Feel free to raise your hand. I can give you a mic if you would like to share any tidbits. Something that you really like about AI agents. No, don't want to answer? They automate your life, guys. Come on. It's pretty good.
They work together and exchange information between them.
There we go. That's a good answer. Anybody else would like to take? Anybody else? Don't feel shy. It's a very friendly environment. And there's no wrong or right answers anyway. Well, anyway, so we'll hear a lot about AI agents today. Once again, thank you so much for coming. I am Sonam Gupta. I am one of your hosts for AI Camp. My friend here, Asako, who's taking pictures, so give it a good smile. She's also part of the AI Camp, helping me host today. And let's start what AI Camp is. So we are basically a global AI developer community. We are spread across the globe. You can see all the red pins. In SF area itself, we have hosted over hundreds of events, just like in the past year or two. And we have many local chapters. So if you are in any cities like New York, Boston, Chicago, in other countries, we have chapters in all those cities. Now, we have various different ways for you to get involved with us. You can submit topics to speak for our next events, because we host a ton of events in the SF Bay area. And we also do some online events, which I'm going to talk about in a second. We love people who could sponsor our events for good food, more pizzas, more drinks, and more prizes maybe. So if any of this sounds interesting to you, please connect with us and email it to us on info@aicamp.ai, or connect with me or Asako and we can help you further. Now, there are many more learning events that AI Camp hosts. So for example, first one is virtual, which throughout July month, we are going to be hosting a ton of them. In person in San Francisco Bay Area, we have like 3 events right now. We have one on July 17th, which is in Menlo Park, then July 21st in AWS office, which is in downtown, and then one again on July 24th at AWS Loft as well. Now, if you want to track all the events throughout the globe, online and in person, please go to our website, which is aicamp.ai, and you will see like a list of upcoming events as well as the past events that have happened. Now, this is a special announcement. Please scan the QR codes, because these are the 2 events. My colleague Devinder, who is a part of Frontier Tower, there will be 2 events. One is the first QR code that you see is a fireside chat with Adam, who's the creator of Siri. And the second one is an AI summit, which is of 2 days. It's a paid event, but if you could use this code AICAMP49, you will get the tickets in much less price. I'll give 10 more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Still phones are up. All right. I want to do a quick community shout out. So if anybody who is looking for a job, hiring, or is anybody is hiring or want to work on a project or looking for a co-founder, this is your time. I can give you a mic for to give a pitch in less than 30 seconds. Anybody interested? Anybody hiring? Look, there we go. Go for it.
Hey everyone, nice to meet you all here. I'm Lalita. I have worked as a full stack developer for 3 years at Morgan Stanley. I have moved here recently to SF Bay Area. I'm exploring new opportunities here. I'm trying to meet new people and learn new technologies. I'm working as a freelancer. I was working for some NGOs. I'm open to anyone having a cool ideas. We can collaborate together and grow and work together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and welcome to the city.
Oh, excuse me. Hello, everyone. I'm Pete Bertrand. I'm a certified information systems security professional, and I have worked with 7 different startups in Silicon Valley throughout my career. And if you have any questions about how to start a security program from scratch, like ground zero, please feel free to find me, and I can talk and give you some pointers. Thank you.
Thank you so much. One more person, if you. Yeah.
Thanks. Hi guys, I'm Scott. I'm a researcher at Northeastern University, an AI researcher. I moved to the area recently, and I'm looking to meet people interested in bringing AI coding assistance to legacy code bases. I'm working on some interesting tools for that and would like to meet other people interested in that problem. Thanks.
All right, moving on. So the QR code that you see is to our Discord channel. Please log in or join our community, and you can always share if you are looking for a job, hiring, projects, next events, or any other ideas that you may have. Okay, and moving on. And a huge thanks to our sponsors, Fetch AI, AI technology partners, and GitHub for sponsoring this event. Now, on to the agenda for today. The first 2 speakers are from Fetch AI, Mike and Rajashekar, who are going to join us for their first talk and talking a lot about agents. And the second and the last talk will be from Troy from AI Technology Partners. And that's it. Thank you, everyone, for coming. And over to you, Fetch AI team. You have 2 speakers? Or?
There we go. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Mike Chrabaszcz. I'm a developer advocate for Fetch AI, and I'm here with Rajashekar, an AI engineer at Fetch AI. Together, we'd like to present to you tonight the latest technologies from Fetch AI and its innovation lab. Fetch AI is a Cambridge-based tech company engineering a decentralized platform where autonomous software agents can discover each other, negotiate, and execute transactions on-chain. On the Fetch AI network, agents operate using FET, the network native utility token. To convert research breakthroughs that we have into market adoption, Fetch AI has established the Innovation Lab. It's an in-house accelerator that equips students, founders, enterprises, researchers with funding, mentorship, and tooling to ship agent-based products. The core engineering team focuses on low-level agent infrastructures, open protocols, and LLM tooling, while the Innovation Lab drives go-to-market through reference projects, open source repos, internships, and global hackathons. Fetch provides a suite of UI products, including UAgents, Agentverse, and ASI1. At the developer's edge sits UAgents, a Python platform that lets you define autonomous agents with a handful of decorators and event handlers, cutting time to protocols to hours instead of weeks. Those agents scale effortlessly on the Agentverse, a managed hosting and discovery layer that abstracts infrastructure, provides on-chain identity, and publishes your agent to a searchable marketplace. And ASI1, starting with the ASI1 Mini, the world's first Web3 native large language model tuned for agentic AI, features an integrated wallet and 4 reasoning models. Together, UAgents, Agentverse, and ASI1 form an end-to-end pipeline where autonomous agents can perceive, reason, and provide the expected outcome. Tonight, we will dig into each of these, discover how they interoperate, and provide technical details with a deep dive into UAgents so that you can see how you can build your own UAgent and provide them onto the Agentverse. Let's start with agents. 2025 has been said to be the year of the agent. A show of hands here. How many people have built an AI agent this year? How many people are expected to release to production an AI agent this year? It's very interesting that in the short time, how popular and how much demand there has been in developing agents. But what is an agent? To be honest, the definition seems to change almost daily. The concept of an agent actually predates large language models, MCP, other protocols, orchestration frameworks, and even predates some of the large tech companies that are promoting agents. In fact, in 1995's book, Artificial Intelligence, A Modern Approach by Russell and Norvig, it states an agent is anything that can, viewed as perceived its environment through sensors and acting upon that environment through actuators. And there are even more references to even earlier definitions that date back to the early 60s. But now, we're now witnessing the rise of autonomous AI agents that sense their environment, that use large language models for reasoning, take actions by calling external tools, and iterate through until they achieve a defined goal. Depending on the use case, you can deploy a single autonomous agent, or as in Fetch AI's case, the Agentverse, we assemble coordinated multi-agent systems of specialized agents that can coordinate to achieve a complex objective. Our unique Fetch agent is referred to as a UAgent. Fetch AI offers the tools to build these UAgents with an open source Python library that lets AI engineers build autonomous agents locally and then deploy them into the Agentverse for managed hosting and discovery. Your UA agent can also be local if you prefer. UAgents support an agent chat protocol, which is the standardized communication framework that enables agents to exchange messages. The library also provides support for specific event handling for the agents, and agents can search and discover other agents based on the descriptions that have been registered in the Agentverse. Our platform continues to evolve with the new emerging technologies, and we currently support MCP integration, and we are currently working on A-to-A support. When building multi-agent systems, we appreciate that people have framework preferences. You know, there's a spectrum of tools when you're building AI agents. There's low, no code, there's orchestrators, and then there's people who want to just build everything by themselves. And we appreciate that. So you have a choice. If you've already implemented an existing agent, implemented in LangGraph or Crew AI, then you don't have to refactor it. Fetch AI Innovation Lab promotes an adapter that supports these types of agents. This allows you to wrap your agent and make it into a UAgent that can be utilized in the Fetch Agentverse. The Fetch Agentverse is a cloud-based platform for creating and hosting autonomous agents without the hassle of managing infrastructure, minimizing your DevOps. Once deployed, the intent is for the agent to remain continuously up and running. Agentverse supports an IDE interface that allows you to directly test your deployed agents. Agents can be configured and deployed as either public or private agents. Dynamic scaling absorbs spikes in message volume, and an isolated Python sandbox safeguards your code and your data. As mentioned earlier, you can build any agent that has an adapter. It's framework agnostic, sorry. So you could have a LangGraph U agent working with a Crew AI U agent. Each agent has its own on-chain wallet. It leverages the Fetch Almanac, an on-chain registry that automatically lists each hosted agent, making it discoverable and callable by other agents in the network. And last, but definitely not least, is ASI1, the world's first Web3 native large language model built for autonomous agents. It is more than a chatbot with a model. It uniquely merges a production LLM, a built-in crypto wallet using FET token, and a specialized agentic reasoning. Under the hood, ASI1 models can plan, adopt, and execute multi-step objectives autonomously. It leverages U agents in the agentverse, where the agentverse provides search and discovery of the agents that they're capable of. In addition, it has access to all the agents of the agentverse. It also has a knowledge graph mechanism that allows you to add your own personal content for retrieval augmented generation, allows access to the internet to extend your search, and has a way to configure the system's personality. There are 4 variations of the model that you can select depending on your use case. Its mixture of models and mixture of agents framework activates only the specialized needs that boost the efficiency and enables collaborative problem solving across all the agents. It supports a mobile and a web version, and it has an API for custom application development. You may have heard the promise of future agent systems that will perform financial transactions on your behalf or be hired to perform tasks that will be paid. This is coming. And Fetch paves the future for an agentic economy where your agents could earn FET tokens whenever your agent is used. So now I'd like to jump into a demo and show you how this works. So looking at the Agentverse marketplace, I can come in here and I can take a look at, I want to know all the location services that are available. And I see that there's one that is the Google API. From here, I can take a look at the description in terms of what it can perform. I get the input and output that is expected, some sample code, how to deploy it locally, and what protocols that I'm using. It also gives me a grading in terms of its performance as well as how much has been used. From here, I can go to a direct chat with my agent, where now I can actually do a direct test with that, and from there, I can then execute something to see it's working. Now, maybe I want some other agent to use this, or maybe I want to use ASI1 to use that agent that's out there. So bringing you to the ASI1, again, like I was mentioning, you can select which model that you want to use, and there's options if you want to import a specific file, or if, let's say, you have something like a RAG type system that you want to be bringing in your own personal information, you can then be bringing in different text files and images. In addition, you can modify this so that you can configure it to have specific personality for this particular. And then in this case here, we're just going to go directly using the search agent, and then I'm going to ask it, what's the location that we're in right now? And what it's going to do is it's going to go through its reasoning process based upon what it knows and based on how it's configured, and then it realizes that I need to go out to an agent, and I need to find an agent that's going to be able to provide the location of the GitHub headquarters. And so it will go out and search that, based upon the agents that it finds, that's going to determine which is going to be the best one to run. And the demo gods, please be good. It then will select which of those, and lo and behold, it has selected the one that I was hoping, and it will then send out, that agent will then execute for me, and then based on what will come back, I get my results. And then from there, you can be layering that with other agents to come up with very complex systems. And at this point, I would like to ask Rajashekar to come to the fore, and he's going to give you an in-depth details about the building of the U agents.
Hi guys. So the basic idea of Fetch AI is we have communication protocols where different agents communicate with each other, pass messages, send messages to each other. And the whole point of Fetch AI is you can build agents using any frameworks like CrewAI, LangChain, LangGraph, AutoGen, OpenAI's SDK, or Google ADK, and bring all of them onto the Fetch network. So what is the point of bringing all these agents to the network? So when you bring all these agents to the network, they are all framework agnostic. Right now, if someone builds an agent using CrewAI, they cannot use some agent built using LangChain. And there is a lot of interoperability problem. But when it comes to Fetch, when you develop all the agents and put it on the marketplace using our framework called U agents, then what happens is a LangChain agent can make use of CrewAI agent. An entire Google A2A ecosystem can make use of Fetch U agent. So this is the whole purpose. And one more thing, as Mike showed you, we have something called ASI1. This is our proprietary LLM. And here, when you do agent search, what happens is whatever the query you give, it will go and search for the appropriate specialized agent on the marketplace. So it's like a platform for search and discovery of agents. So any query you give, it will go and fetch the right agent from the marketplace, search them, and based on its capabilities, it will provide the right answer. Now, let's try to build one agent here. Since we are at GitHub, let's make a GitHub MCP agent. So how it works, I'll show you the basic architecture overview. So what we need to do is, we are making use of an MCP server. And what we are building is, MCP server is provided by GitHub. It's the official MCP server of GitHub. What we need to make is an MCP client. When we make an MCP client, it can talk to this MCP server. So we will wrap this MCP client into a U agent. And after that, what we need to do is we need to attach a chat protocol. So each agent, to talk with other agent, it needs a chat protocol. That chat protocol and communication protocols are developed by Fetch AI. So we will attach a chat protocol, and then we will register on the marketplace, that is Agentverse. And once we do that, our MCP client has this chat protocol, and other things are like any custom logic that you can have. And now our ASI1 can discover this agent. Let's go through this process. Yeah, so we have agent.py. So when I run an agent, what is the unique thing with Fetch is that each agent gets something called an address. So if you see, I highlighted something, that is the address it gets on the blockchain. So once it gets this address, each agent will have unique way to reach out. So how is the communication protocol working? It works through this address. One agent will find the other agent through this address, and that's how communication happens. Now I need to go to something called mailbox. Mailbox is something that an agent always need not be online, right? So even when it is offline, if it receives some message, still it can respond back when it is back online. I'm connecting the mailbox at the moment. And once mailbox is done, the next most important step is we need to make a README to the agent. Otherwise, our ASI1 doesn't know what are the capabilities of the agent. So I have a README here, which I'll copy paste. And we need to give a name to the agent. And we saved the README, so this is the agent README. Let's make sure it is saved. Yeah, it is saved. And you see, this is the address of that particular agent. This is very unique address that it gets on the blockchain. And now, since we attached the chat protocol, we can actually directly chat with the agent here. Either we can chat with the agent, this is the marketplace, or we can go to our ASI LLM, and let's do our first query. Hopefully, it works. So I am tagging GitHub MCP agents, that's what we made, and ask, show me my GitHub profile. So it is trying to go and find a specialized agent for that. And it has found our agent. And it is now asking us to authenticate it. Let's authenticate it. And we need to give some access. This is only for demo purposes, but do not give your token like this. And I have sent my token, and it has successfully, no, it is not authenticated, maybe. Okay, it is repeatedly asking for the authentication. Let me see. Okay, there is a problem with authentication. Sorry about that. I'll show a different example. Let's see a Perplexity agent. Yeah, and now I made a Perplexity agent, and similar process. We need to go to the agent mailbox, and I've already made a README for it, a proper README with Perplexity MCP agent with different tools. And I can just go and ask on. So it is searching for the right agent, and it has found our agent. These are the number of agents that are related to the query. That's why it has written 5 agents, but it is choosing the first agent because that's the most relevant one. And it has responded back. Because it is directly using the Perplexity MCP agent, it knows what tools to use, and accordingly it brings back the agents. And GitHub MCP agent, if that authentication worked, we can actually make a direct repository from this one. So if we can ask, like, make a repository for me, or do a pull request for me, we can directly do all that from the interface. And coming to Google A2A. So the Google A2A, what we did was, there is a Google A2A ecosystem, right? So there are many agents built on top of Google A2A ecosystem, and each agent will have an A2A card. Now, with Fetch AI, what we can do is, now the Google A2A agent has its own card, and we can bring all the U agents that are on the agentverse directly on A2A. So now the Google A2A client will have access to the entire agent ecosystem on the agentverse. This is how we are, like, bringing together different agent ecosystems. And I think, like, that will be the future, where agents built on top of different frameworks still can communicate with each other, collaborate with each other, so that everything is platform agnostic. And yeah, that's the basic idea of it. Thank you.
QR codes, gotta have QR codes. So here's the links to our innovation lab, if you want to come up to speed and learn that. And this is also a link to our repo. We have also a specific example repo for innovation lab that we are building up. So if you'd like, reach out to us. We are looking to collaborate with people who want to be able to build this and come up to speed. And I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for Mike and Shik?
Yeah, so blockchain is related to the aspect of payments. So when someone is using your agent, the number of times it has been used, and everything needs to be recorded, right, in a transparent way. That's where the blockchain comes.
We have one more question here.
I think my question may have overlapped with his, but I didn't understand your response, so I'm just going to ask it a slightly different way. When you say that's where the blockchain comes in, can you just elaborate on that? Because that's my question. What do you need the blockchain? And if you don't have the blockchain, what are you missing, or what are the substitutes for that?
Yeah, so we have something called the Almanac contract. So all the agents that we register on the agentverse are part of this network, right? And only the agents that are part of this network can exchange messages and everything. The part where the blockchain comes is, let's say different Fed tokens are exchanged during the messages, and each agent, when it registers on the network, it will receive something called a wallet. And that's how, like, for each agent, if it has a wallet, whenever someone uses this agent, the number of times this agent has been used and everything is recorded. And it's like more providing more transparency.
Why do you need that?
Sorry?
Why do you need that in the first place?
Can say something like, what's a better way to say is? Not just that sounds cool, but mostly it is related to payments part. When the payments part has not yet been integrated into the agent verse yet, but when payments come into picture, I think that will be one of the best ways forward going with agent economy. So our entire idea is to have an agent economy where each agent representing different people is making transactions on your behalf.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Oh, thank you. So you actually solved it. So thank you. And let's suppose I have a tool, private tool for creators to create AI agents, which I actually do, but that's not the point. And I want to connect. Fetch AI. Will it replace my backend, or will it be addition to it? And how much time for one developer will it take to, to use it fully, to connect it, and that whatever they create will appear in your marketplace, et cetera, et cetera?
So yeah, there are two questions. The first is in terms of, do you have to, I guess, leave your backend? So we are building the backend components for the U agents to interact with each other. In terms of the getting somebody up to speed, if you have, let's say, a specific way of implementing, if you build using our framework, then you can build it as a U agent. And then be able to integrate that and be able to deploy it. So does that mean that you should abandon the way that your framework works? That's something that you can talk to Fetch about and coming up with an adapter. So if you've got existing agents that you've already implemented, we currently have adapters for Crew AI and for LangChain and LangGraph. So that's something that we could talk about in terms of how difficult would it be. There's options. One, we come up with an adapter, or B, you're going to have to implement what we need as the basic components to build the U agent into your framework.
All right. Yeah, we'll talk later.
Hello. I am also working on building AI agents, and my question is regarding basically on the accuracy of AI agents. So, for example, you have given a demo, and you have told us that AI agents communicate with each other. So there must be another AI agent which is managing those agents, right? So my example is like that. How you can make sure that the flow workflow that AI agent is generating is accurate enough. I'm not talking about prompt engineering, but what else you can do except for the prompt engineering to increase the accuracy of the whole workflow?
Evals. So there is something called agent evaluation. If you heard about Arise, so there is a platform called Arise which does agent observability and performance check. So this Arise is actually integrated with different platforms like Crew AI, LangChain, and everything. So when you build an agent using any of these frameworks, it has got this agent observability. That's where you can see how the agent is performing and what's going wrong.
Got it.
Hey, my question is regarding the correctness of the AI agent. Let's say there are two developers who have created a similar agent which does geolocation and all. So how your system decides which agent is better for this query, or like it's a rating-based system or something?
Yeah, there is a rating-based system, and also there is something like location-based system. So based on the geolocation of the user query, it will choose the agent that is nearer. And also, it will also choose the agent which has the higher ratings and higher number of usages as well.
And if there is a single agent, then it will by default choose that.
Yes, that's right.
Hello, thank you very much. My name is Yixuan. Previously, I worked in fintech companies. So my question is regarded to the payment. What kind of currencies, like their digital currencies or any other, like US dollars or any other?
That's coming soon. So the payments are not yet integrated.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We have one more question.
My question was about payments also. I guess wondering about your payment infrastructure or the plans for it. Would there be like budgeting? Because I could foresee, in your marketplace you have thousands of agents and other agents organizing agents in the group to do very complex tasks, and all of a sudden they build the new application that you want and they deliver it and it's $100,000, but that's not in your budget. So I guess the question is, do you have plans for like budgeting or cost estimation?
That's a very futuristic question. At the moment, still, people are still trying to make agents more reliable and come to a proper outcome, deterministic outcome. That is, I think. And there are also like things like PayPal and Skyfire who are working specifically on the payment infrastructure. So what I believe is that different agentic frameworks will ultimately collaborate with the actual specialized payment services and payment infrastructure. And the outcome will depend on how they are planning to do this kind of agent payment related stuff. Yeah.
But there's a lot of work that needs to be done there. But the idea in terms of the budget, as well as, some of these are going to be semi-autonomous. So certain things, I want to be able to have my agent with a wallet with a finite amount of budgeted Fed. And how do I control that? That's things that still need to be resolved.
Do you see in the future agents negotiating with each other for price? And I guess one of the questions would be, do you think your group is going to be working on some of the logic like that, or just supplying the glue and the environment in which they will operate?
Let's talk afterwards. That's a longer conversation. It's a great conversation because the opportunity, particularly around arbitrage and the negotiation that, well, which of these location services, this one's costing 2 cents, this is costing 1 cent, but 1 cent on Sunday, and how I can actually budget that in terms of operation. That's a larger, let's talk.
Yeah, that's great. I also have a background in fintech. Thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen. Let's hear it for Mike and Raj. All right, next up is Troy. Over to you. You good with this or this?
Test, test. All right, it's on. Hey, everybody. My name is Troy Angrignon. Really great to be back here again. It's actually our second time here. I'm really excited to be able to provide kind of a major update because we were here about 8 months ago, I think, on our V1 platform. I want to talk about a whole bunch of cool stuff we're doing with a major customer. I'm the Chief Growth Officer for a company called AI Technology Partners, and it's out of Boston. We are a variant of a unicorn, I like to say. We're not the billion-dollar valuation kind, we're the profitable kind. So we're 12 people, we've got cash in the bank, paying customers, completely bootstrapped, no outside capital. So I like to think of that as, it's probably more rare than the unicorns, actually. Today I'm going to talk about one major deployment that we're doing. We're really just rolling it out right now, actually. We're through the planning phase, we're into implementation. So I'll talk through all of that. And then I'm going to try to leave as much time as I can for questions, and I'm going to stick around after, so feel free to grab me as well. I'll stay as late as I need. Before I move on, so AI technology partners, you've always heard niche down, right? Find your small niche. Well, I think we found a very tiny but very motivated niche. Our customers are generally highly motivated, private equity backed, mid-market enterprise customers, often managed service providers, interestingly. And these are companies that are under extreme pressure to drive revenue and profit in very tight time cycles. So they're highly, highly motivated to adopt new technologies. They're not looking for 10% growth, they're looking for 5x in 5 years. These are extremely motivated customers. We love working with them. And the ones we're working with have very complex businesses, which turn out to be a really good fit for large language models and all the stuff we know and love, assistants and agents and all that kind of thing. I guess I have my clicker. So I'm only going to spend a couple of slides on this because you guys all know this, but what's interesting is probably because I'm out selling all day long, I do sales, marketing, and partnering, it's really hard to believe for an audience like this who's at AI Camp how far behind the rest of the world is. And I'm sure all of you kind of see this in your day-to-day life with your friends and family. And you're like, oh, look how exciting this is and where the world's going to be. And they're saying, what are you talking about? I don't know what an agent is. I am on calls every day where we say, well, hey, what's your AI strategy? And they say, yeah, we're still debating between Copilot or ChatGPT, and we'll probably budget it for 2026 or 2027. And your brain just explodes. And you want to reach across the table and shake them and say, do you realize that the capability curve of these models is on an exponential curve? Like, we are rapidly approaching the point where these reasoning models can take over many high-functioning reasoning functions within our business. Are they sentient? I don't care. Are they human brain level capacity? I don't care, because they can do the job of a person who is a financial analyst or a legal analyst or whatever else. So the capability is radically increasing, and the cost has collapsed 99% in 2 years. And people have no idea what to do with the fact that they're living now in this kind of double exponential curve. Because they just keep thinking very linearly. So we kind of have to shake folks. So we say, look, we get it. You're probably having these long debates in your team, like, oh, should we get Copilot or ChatGPT? And we like to call that the commodity cave, because you're just playing Me Too. You're doing what all your competitors do. It's not interesting. It's not an engine for your business. It's not going to transform your operations. The next one is, oh, but we already have AI. Yeah, of course you do. You have like 500 SaaS applications, and all of them put AI in there last year, right? So every single one of them has some kind of back-end service that's talking to OpenAI. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's not going to transform the business. This is just table stakes. AI came along for the ride in every single SaaS app you had. So it's not going to materially move the needle on the business, because every single company who's a SaaS customer got that. And then the last thing, this is more for folks who are kind of dealing with resellers all the time. The resellers are like, hey, I've got some more AI to sell you, get on my subscription. So just, it doesn't move the needle. If we get a customer who says, okay, great, renting isn't the path, maybe we'll do it ourselves. And I'll say, great, are you Shopify, right? Or are you one of the bleeding edge hyper web scalers? No. Okay, well, good luck. You will never find the team. You'll never retain that talent. You'll never be able to get them. If you could get them, you can't retain them. You can't pay for them. And they're not going to stick around in your company. And for every job opening, for every qualified AI person out in the market right now, there are 15 job openings. So no company that's a mid-market enterprise can actually build these teams. If they did build a team, which is unlikely, it's going to cost about $3 million a year minimum. Probably, it's $8 or $9 million over 3 years. So when we come to them and we say, you shouldn't be renting, and they say, great, maybe we'll build it ourselves. We say, good luck, we'll see you in 6 months, because you're going to fall in this hole. And so they say, okay, they come back 6 months later and they say, okay, great, you're right, that was a terrible idea. What can we do? And our answer is, we think that the path forward, and this is the path we've taken, is actually help our customers build their own sovereign private AI platform, their infrastructure they own. We help them build it, we run it, and we teach them how to use it. And so that way, when we talk to our clients and they're in regulated industries or these crazy PE-backed industries where they say, so let me get this straight, I can have it, you'll build it for me, I can have it. I can put it into my cloud environment, I can own it, and I can kick you out the door. And we say, yeah, that's exactly the point, right? We want you to be independent of us, and so we'll build something for you that you can keep if you choose to. Ideally, you keep us around and we get to run it and kind of maintain the plumbing, and then we'll teach you how to build stuff on top that actually drives value. So what we've ended up doing is building kind of a combination of solutions and services, and I'm going to get into the meat of the story here in a second here, but this is useful background, I hope. So we've put together 3 open source components. We've taken LibreChat, which is an amazing project, which I'll talk about, Portkey, which is an LLM API gateway, and we're going to be adding in N8N, which is a great automation framework I'm sure many of you have heard of or probably use. I see some nodding heads. And we're putting it together with, that's the 30% of kind of the cost. It's always the technology side. But the 70% that matters, because this is not an IT project, this is an AI transformation of the business, an organizational change management problem. The other 70% is AI governance, executive committee support, working with the executive team to get them up to speed because they don't want to ask dumb questions in front of their team. So helping them understand what's going on. Education, training, enablement, customer support, one-on-one use case discovery, and I'm going to walk through kind of what happened when we did all this work. So we think that 30%, and Bain supports this, Bain Consulting Group says when you're doing these projects, 30% is technology and about 70% is the soft stuff, that's the hard stuff, it's the people stuff. So what we've ended up doing is delivering a platform with enablement and training, and in the platform we have all sorts of pre-built agents that do all sorts of things. So rather than kind of selling one agent at a time, we kind of sell the entire transformation effort with a platform, with enablement, and with a whole suite of agents kind of built in from the beginning. So we had a V1. We actually had another open source project. It was a Microsoft piece of chat-based code, a chatbot code. We did deploy it. We deployed it at a bunch of different customers. It was fine. It was okay. It wasn't nearly as good as ChatGPT or TeamGPT or Claude or any of those. And so ultimately, it wasn't really going to scale for us. But what was interesting is we were able to prove out a lot of our thesis here, which is if we put it in everybody's hands, give you a secure, private ChatGPT equivalent that's under your control, in your data center, full sovereignty, full control of the entire stack. One, that they would buy it, pay us for it, which was good. 2, that they want to continue to do that. And then what was interesting is when we deployed this in our biggest clients, 4,000 person IT services, managed service provider, I had 220 meetings with their team. Individually, I did, and plus our team also had many, many more. And from that, actually, they told us what they wanted. They were like, hey, this thing's okay, but what about this? And they started to give us idea after idea after idea. So just rolling out the base platform, just giving them a chat client, and then having meetings with them saying, is this working for you? And they said, no, not really. I want to do this. I want to do this 2,000-page contract. I want to do this other project. And we're like, okay, well, let's take those ideas down and we'll kind of capture them all. And what ended up happening is they told us what they wanted, and that sort of led into this project. So our aha moment was, hey, if we can just give everybody a base tool and then have conversations with them all, they'll tell us what to build next. And that's exactly what happened. They gave us 60 or 70 use cases deeply tied into their business. Like these are, you look at them and go, I don't even know what that means, right? Until you sit down and talk with them for a couple of hours and kind of understand the actual requirements. And here's the interesting bit. Some of these, I'll just use an example, like, because I can reach it, but that might have turned into actually 100 different copies or instances of an agent. So an example of that might be a deal, let's say a customer operations assistant. So they have 200 customers. Each one has massively complex environments. What if there's one assistant that team could talk to that knew everything about that customer environment? And we're talking hundreds and hundreds of servers and lots of data centers and cloud infrastructure. So a dedicated assistant focused on one customer and their operational requirements. This turned into about 700 assistants. Now, I've been calling it agents. These are truly simple. These are assistants. These are chatbot assistants with a purpose, a system prompt, a model, some model settings, and some RAG data. Nothing fancy, maybe some tool calling, maybe some API calls. We'll figure that out as we go. But this came from them, which was just unbelievable. It was really cool. Now, we had a problem because our V1 code sucked. It was not going to get us there. And so we ended up going with LibreChat. We did a whole survey. We looked at all the different chat clients. Open Web UI is another really good one. I'm sure everybody in this room knows or loves, has their fans. We did a big deep dive. We ended up picking this platform. We really like Danny, the project founder. He's great. He's built an awesome community, very vibrant community, a really solid development roadmap, like regular cadence. Every 6 weeks there's a new version out. Shopify deployed on this platform. And they've talked a lot about how complex and how hard and how messy that was even for them. So we love the platform, and we love the fact that it's multi-vendor, multi-foundation model vendor. So you can have Google and Anthropic and plug in all your different models from all your different vendors, and that's really, really important for an enterprise. We just tell them, don't be locked in. Don't be locked into OpenAI. Don't be locked into Gemini. Don't be locked into Microsoft Azure OpenAI. It's too early in the game, so you don't want to do that. So that was super important. Super easy agent creation. They call it agents. A lot of it is really just assistants and a great community. I think most people in this room, I'm guessing, if you're on the development side, know that a great open source project isn't necessarily a great enterprise application, right? There's a gap. More nodding heads. There's often a gap, right? The sort of like theory versus reality, or the open source promise versus the like hard reality of, oh no, I'm in a regulated environment and we just have to close all these gaps. So we found a bunch of different issues. We're not alone. We surveyed the market, did all the research, talked to lots of companies. These are the 6 things that came up the most. Scaling, I put those together. It's really scaling and security would be 2. Governance and observability, which I heard Mike and the team talking about. Isolating multi-tenant RAG, so I'll get into that. Auditability, security of the software supply chain, the pipeline itself, and then access control. So what we found is lots of great ideas, tons of things that were sort of almost there, just not quite completely fully there. And so when we took it and took the basic framework into this client, we said, hey, here are all the features, here's how everything works. Immediately they came back with, that's not going to work here. Here are all the reasons. And they gave us that direct feedback. Like, what do you mean anybody in the company could just share an agent to the whole company? That's not going to work for us. Like, we can't just have 1,000 people share an agent to 4,000 people. That's a complete non-starter, right? From a compliance and regulatory, just for so many reasons, that's not going to work. So we ended up with a bunch of these issues. We kind of put them on the board and said, okay, well, how are we going to start to close these gaps? I'm going to walk through that in detail here. And so we ended up kind of in the same 6 bullet points, kind of I'll walk through the 6 kind of solutions here. So standardized secure foundation, everything's done in Terraform. We use Azure landing zones. Everything we built is in Azure today. I think eventually we'll be cloud agnostic, but today we still have some dependencies on Azure, so we've just stayed there. Our clients are there, and their infrastructure is there. It just works out. So that's been great. We lock it down behind private networks, right? We get everything off public IP endpoints, things like that. So we lock it in behind VNets, and then essentially we leverage web services wherever it's possible. So one of the components in LibreChat is MongoDB. That's where you store the chat history and the files that you've uploaded through the RAG API. That we moved into MongoDB Atlas, which is a web service version of the same database. So we took it out of the container, moved it to the web service, and the beauty of it is it's cross-cloud. So ultimately, we can run it in MongoDB Atlas on Amazon or Google or whatever. We don't really care about the infrastructure. So we're kind of step-by-step working our way out of being kind of dependent on Azure. We still have a few more components to switch, like Azure AI Search, which we love. It's very expensive, but it's very functional. Governance and cost control. So Portkey, we've added as our API gateway underneath LLM API gateway to be super clear because it's very focused on that use case. What we were finding is, because actually what we've done is we've done the user side with LibreChat. We've also done Portkey to support the developer community so that all our customers, internal developers who want to develop solutions, what the company doesn't want, what no company wants, is for the developer team to go get 50 different cloud accounts. It's worse than SaaS, right? It's kind of that problem again, all over again. So what they don't want is, oh, okay, all of these guys are going to go get their own accounts and their own different, OpenAI platform keys and all that kind of stuff, and it's going to be a big governance mess. So what we do is we put the platform in place, we survey the developer community and say, which models do you need from which vendors? And then we go get the accounts at a corporate level, and we put them in underneath the gateway, and then give the developers keys to the gateway. So that way we've got a point of control and quota, security, monitoring, management, maintenance, everything runs through that kind of point of control. And that's really good for the CISO, because then they say, okay, great, at least if I want to do data loss prevention, or I want to do any sort of tracking or whatever, I can do it through there. It's great for the CFO, because the CFO goes, great, I can now track all this stuff. I can do chargebacks and whatever to the departments. So this is really important. It's not kind of baked into LibreChat. Again, these are two different components. This was another thing which was interesting. So you can really quickly build a DIY agent, literally. I'll show you the UI, but you click, you open, and you say, new agent, here's the name, here's the system prompt, I want this model, I want these parameters set. And you can just drag and drop some files in. That's just not really sustainable for 4,000 person org or 10,000 person org. So what we wanted to do is use SharePoint synchronization and vectorization, which we built an engine for. So what we wanted was any user could create their own agent, and they could also say, and by the way, I have a folder in SharePoint where all of the data, the knowledge for that agent lives, right? And we want to vectorize that and make it available through RAG. The built-in LibreChat thing, unfortunately, I'm not sure if it's a design flaw or what, but when you go to create it and you add it to the first agent, then you go create a second agent and you put some Azure AI search endpoint in there with the tool calling, it overwrites the first agent. And so if you do 10 of those, basically you end up 10 agents all pointing at one folder. It just doesn't work. It just was a design flaw. So we ended up fixing that. And so now we can build as many agents as we want. And instead of like, hey, you can drag and drop 20 files in there, literally you could drop thousands of files in there. Just give us the SharePoint parent folder or folders, and we will synchronize them, read every change in those, and then vectorize those within about 5 minutes, put them into the index, make them available to the agent. So that was just a bunch of engineering that we had to do to sort of work around that problem. Prompts and agents. It's funny that we're here in GitHub. Everything is handled through GitOps. The code is handled through there. The prompts are handled through there. Think of this, we have multiple clients, multiple deployments, multiple stages, right? So what are we doing? Dev, QA, UAT, prod, 4 environments times every client. And we're pushing all this stuff through. Code is one. Prompts is another one, because they have a prompt library built in. Agents are another one. We're going to manage, once they come up with a really great agent idea, we're going to make the official version, and we'll push it down from kind of our GitHub down in through that chain. So we can actually have version control and be able to manage that, because otherwise you can't really manage it at scale. The supply chain for the software. So one of the things we wanted to be careful of is, it's probably not a frequent attack, but we wanted to make sure that anything that was coming from upstream, like from the project itself, we were not just kind of going, okay, just grab it and merge it with our code, right? So we kind of bring copies in, put it in a private container registry, do our security reviews, sign off on it, make sure that we vetted it, because we're pushing it into our enterprise customer environments. So we're kind of the last line of defense of the LibreChat code, or the Portkey code, or the N8N code. So we're gonna have to sort of bring that stuff in, quarantine it, vet it, security scan it, and then from there say, okay, great, now that's on one branch, and we've got our changes on another, and now we can merge them. So we have to be really careful about kind of the security of that supply chain. So that's been a big block of work for the engineering team. And last, I think everybody, probably anybody who works in open source will go, aha, finally, kind of the moment I've been waiting for, which is we've been so happy to be part of this community because yes, there are gaps, there will always be gaps, and that's just the way open source works. But they've got a great roadmap, and they have a really good, I would say, track record of saying, this is our roadmap, and sticking to their roadmap. And that's really key, right, for any community that we're a part of. So we're really happy with how they've traditionally stuck to the roadmap. And then they did say, hey, okay, we know that agent sharing, for example, which is a bit of a pain point for this big customer, was a problem. It was all or nothing. I can either create an agent for myself or I can share it to the entire company. That's just not going to work at scale. So we were a little nervous that we were going to have to hack this ourselves. And then the community solved the problem for us, and we were very excited about this. And they were like, no, 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 we've already solved it. We actually have a corporate sponsor. I don't even know who it is. I have some guesses. But they actually did the work and have pushed that code in. So soon, I think this week or next week, we're supposed to see the results of that. So hopefully this one real blocker, like how do you share it just to your department, right? How do you create that agent shared just to your team? That kind of wasn't there. It wasn't there at all. And so I think that's going to get solved for us, which is going to be great. So this is just my version. I am not a network architect or a solution architect. I play one on television, and I do it all in PowerPoint. So I'm obviously not a real architect. But this is just a quick draft of sort of the components. And in this model, essentially, we'd have data admins that we work with really closely to sort out which data in the company they want and which agents would have which data, things like that. That gets synced in to object stores, and then from there, that gets indexed. We've got the, where do I want to go next? I'll skip the admins here. I'll walk through the flow. So user logs in, obviously, not obviously, they all have some kind of SSO, Entra, Okta, whatever, we don't really care. They're going to come in through some kind of SSO, through the custom domain. Once they've logged in to their tenant or to their subscription inside their tenant, again, this is in our customer's cloud environment, then they log in and they get to the UI. If they send a prompt, it goes down and basically it's sitting on some app infrastructure in there. It passes it through into the models. And again, multi-foundation model vendors are in there, so it routes it to whatever vendor it needs to. The chats are stored in MongoDB Atlas, as I said earlier. We collect metrics separately, store those in a separate database. And we're playing around with the document indexing. We've had all sorts of, we used Doc Intelligence from Azure. It had some real limitations, and I think we're swapping that with some other components. So, it's not a horrendously complex architecture. It's a fairly typical chat assistant architecture, I'd say, just that we swapped in LibreChat for the old code, and we swapped out Cosmos for MongoDB. That was about it. So it probably looks pretty familiar to anybody who's built one of these systems. And that's about it. I'm going to sort of just finish on this. I think what was really interesting for us is being able to push out a base system, just a simple chat system to everybody, and have an excuse to go talk to them and say, is this working for you? Could be ChatGPT. It really doesn't matter. Push it out and get them talking to you about, hey, does this work for you? And people will tell you, it's not quite working for me. I have this other idea. What about this? Every time I hear, what about this, my ears perk up. I'm like, great, let's have that conversation. And we'll have an hour or two conversation, and we'll figure out the requirements. And I'll say, I'll get back to you. And I had to keep saying, I'll get back to you in like 7 months. But now I can say, I'll get back to you, and we'll build it, right, in 10 minutes next week, which will be super fun. So getting it in people's hands allows you to get the feedback, and then they'll build more solutions, which gets more adoption, which gets more traction, which gets more people using it, and then the new people start coming up with their own ideas. So it's a really virtuous circle. So I would highly, for anybody who's building, and I'm sure a lot of you are building, just get your stuff in your users' hands. That's my only advice. And that's it. I'm going to close on that. We can go to questions. our core here is really, we started with a really good, powerful open source core, which is LibreChat, and we love the team, and we love the community, and we're super excited to be part of it now. But we had to do a lot of work, and we're going to continue to have to do a lot of work to really surround it with enterprise-grade engineering to make it a real product and to make it actually work for the customer. Because at the end of the day, our job isn't to build technology. Our job is to help our customer radically increase the valuation of their company by transforming their company with AI, by upskilling all of their team, and by building lots of little solutions across the business that drive huge increases in revenue or profit. That's what they care about. They don't care about the technology at all. The CIO sort of does, but nobody else does. So in order to do this stuff, it's sort of like, we have a great core, we've done a ton of engineering, we'll continue to do the engineering, and then we unleash the client creativity, and that's what's going to drive ultimately the valuation of the business. That's it. That's all I have. Questions?
We have a question here.
It was a great presentation. Thank you for taking us through it. So I'm curious, one of the issues we've encountered in a similar context working with enterprise customers is providing context to the agents around where the data sits, where the code is, what repos to access, how to get credentials. Literally anything that you would have to explain to a new engineer joining the company, you have to get that context to the agent. So it's a bit of a self-serving question because that's the problem we're solving. Our company's called Immersa.ai. I'm one of the founders.
What's the company name?
Immersa,
Immersa?
I-M-M-E-R-S-A. Yeah, but I'm curious if you've encountered that issue in this context. Is this kind of scale we haven't run into yet?
Yeah, we totally have. So the question is fundamentally, how do you get the context, I think, to the agents and to the users using those agents? So I'm sure a lot of people in the room know there's this big buzz around context engineering. I've been doing a ton of work on this myself, or our team has. And I was like, well, isn't this just prompt engineering? Why are we renaming this? And I think that your question is fundamentally around that, because the thing that matters is not, can you write a good prompt? It's because can you give that prompt enough contextual information that the prompt actually does something great? So an example of that is, like, I wrote a 50-page white paper the other day in 4 hours. Now, that would have been a month's worth of work. How was I able to do it? Because I had blocks and blocks and blocks and blocks of prior work, prior art, which were the context, which were the feeding input into the system. And I had a prompt, sure, I had a prompt flow and a prompt sequence. But if I didn't have the context blocks to pull into the prompt sequence, I couldn't have done that in 4 hours. So we've been thinking about that problem. And I think in this context, what's interesting is that the LibreChat user interface actually has a prompt library built into it. And so you can actually create a prompt and share it to everybody in the company. And there's a little switch in there that I think is super interesting, which is auto send the prompt or don't. Meaning, I could just put context blocks in there. So here's a context block about the company. Anybody could then type slash, because it just slash pulls up the prompt library, slash, and then, company context or something like that. And it would filter thousands of these little prompts or context blocks down to a list. And I'd go, oh, that's the one I want, company context block. Click, hit return, and it would barf that into my prompt, window. And then I can just do whatever I want with it from there. So we're going to try to use the prompt library as a place to store context blocks. I'm not sure if that makes sense without knowing the interface, but essentially it's a shared prompt library. We're going to cheat it. We're going to hack it by putting prompt context blocks in there that are not prompts, actually.
So we are building specifically model context repository for solving that problem.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds great. I would love that. Yeah, any other questions?
Any other?
Hi, thank you. It was a great presentation, loved it. I really like the part you mentioned about governance layers, and I was curious, do you guys run into problems with governance layers around tool calling? Is that something you guys are worried about, like ensuring that like MCPs or just tools in general for agents are governed properly across the entire enterprise for deployments?
Right, so is there governance of tool calling, or is there concern about governance for tool calling? We're not running into it yet because we're not doing a lot of it, but I think we will, because at every layer, like we were on a conversation today, which was, hey, we're going to be adding a bunch of these different foundation model vendors and their model libraries to the system, right, that, so that people can select from them. So the fundamental question is around, do we agree with their terms of service? Can we, do we agree with the terms of service, and do we actually want to have them in here from a governance perspective? One, do we want to add them to the platform? Two, once we have them, who gets to use them? Who gets to use a reasoning model, which is more expensive, versus who gets to use like the base model, and how do we make those determinations? So governance played in there. To go to your question, that's probably the next conversation we're going to have. Like, we've already turned off all the tool calling. The only tool calling we've left turned on in the platform is for Azure AI Search. And that's going to be one-to-one, where any agent that somebody creates, if they have a folder full of files that they would like to attach to it for RAG purposes, then we'll say, give us, the link or links to those. We call them golden folders. And then we will index those, and we'll give you the, the index endpoint, and we'll attach it there. And that is a tool call, but we've turned off all the other tools. But I think it's going to get really messy really fast, right? Especially with MCP.
Yeah, we're a YC company. We're actually building governance layers for tool calls. So we'll love to talk to you about that.
Perfect. Okay, that sounds great. I'm getting lots of leading questions from people building companies who solve that problem, which is fantastic. What's the company name? Alter. I love being in rooms full of builders. This is great.
Yeah, hi. I mean, I really liked your presentation, and I suppose one of the questions I had was, considering, I suppose, what your product is, or your company, sorry, yeah, your company, I suppose, you're providing like personalized kind of support, and of course, like, this process, I suppose, would be much longer than simply buying a ChatGPT plan and using that. And so then I suppose, like, my question is, like, kind of, what's the difference in the cost of like using your services? And I suppose also because it takes longer, and like, how long would you expect to take before you kind of start to see the benefits of having like this personalized AI and a lot of back and forth discussion?
So the question is, what's the cost difference if a company were to go just buy ChatGPT off the shelf, like Team GPT or ChatGPT Enterprise, versus working with us?
Yeah, and what the benefit would be kind of in the long term.
The fundamental benefit, I'm not going to get into cost because it's a pricing discussion. We're more, I'll just say that, we're more than those guys are because we don't consider them to be equivalent. OpenAI is pretty good. We don't consider Microsoft Copilot to be a competitor at all. We do consider maybe OpenAI Stack to be a competitor at the stack level. What's interesting is OpenAI, I don't know if you're aware of this, but OpenAI just launched their consulting services. So they're going to look a lot more like us now as of last week, except it's a $10 million contract minimum to get their consultants in the door. You can't get them there for less than $10 million. So we're less than that. That's our new high watermark, I guess. And I think the fundamental difference is we always say, and I mentioned it earlier, we always say that the hard part is the soft stuff, right? It's the people, it's the change management, it's the use case discovery. It's the fact I sat and had 225 meetings with, people across this client for 10 or 12 months to say, what's your problem and how can we maybe solve it for you? And then how, or better yet, how can I teach you and your team to go solve the problem? Because we're not going to build all these agents, all these instances. We're going to do a train the trainer. We'll build a few, like we'll build the first 5 that we push out to the whole company, maybe the first 10 even, but we're not going to build 700. So we're going to push it out to them and teach them how to do it and give them guidelines and then have them push these things out. So we're train the trainer, and then that's where the growth is going to come from. Fundamentally, this is an organizational change management and AI, transformation project. No different than digital, digitization, the data sort of thing that came before it, the cloud that came, after that. So we think this is a moment of transformation. That's why we treat it like a transformation project. Center of excellence, proper funding, executive committee, the whole thing.
Thank you.
I guess I'm next. So thank you for the presentation. And just to continue in what you were just discussing, no one likes change, right? And especially in the enterprise environment.
Yeah.
and more so when your job is on the line, right? And so I was wondering if I'm sure you've come across situations where different groups within the organization are averse to, adopting your solutions because it is threatening them. There's no, I mean, we see that all the time. Question is, maybe it doesn't, you haven't seen that kind of a problem as much because you're working with very high growth companies, as you were mentioning, but I'm wondering if have you come across it and have you developed any strategies to kind of help in the adoption process?
Yeah, so the question is really around the hard part of people being resistant, right, to change. I just had this question and discussion actually this morning with the CEO of a partner of ours, CEO of a very high growth, 500-person managed services firm. And he said, hey, we've actually, because we've been growing so fast through external private equity capital, we've been moving so fast, we've been changing the business so rapidly, we have scar tissue. Not from AI, not from anything else, just organizational change, like tripling the business's revenue in 3 years and in buying companies and integrating them in. So he's like, we're just tired, we're exhausted, right, from that. So that's actually was interesting. He's like, so if we try to do this as a big bang AI transformation project, everybody's going to reject it because they're just going to be like, I'm exhausted from the last 6 changes. I don't want to take this one on. I think that's an edge case. I think you're asking more of a general purpose question, which is for most companies, how do you deal with the resistant? And I would say that you're always going to have what we've seen so far is there's a bell curve, right? You're going to have the bleeding edge. I'd say your top 30% of your people are further ahead than the executive team. And what's happening is the executive team, we call it the leadership gap, they're blaming their company and saying, we're not going to move fast because our people aren't ready for it. And our pushback on that is, they're so far ahead of you, you have no idea. Like 30% of your team are going to quit because they're going to go to a company that's more AI forward than you are. So you're actually about to lose your top talent unless you move faster. And the bottom third, or 20%, that are super AI resistant, don't worry about it. They're going to be resistant to everything, so it doesn't matter. Don't try to calibrate the speed of the change based on them and worrying about them. And then there's the bulk of the folks in the middle who, for the most part, when I show folks, and I do a lot of the training, I just say, hey, what's your biggest pain point? What's the thing you hate doing the most? How can I help you get rid of that? And they're like, oh, this stupid thing that takes me 20 hours a week. Great, let's get rid of that. What do you love doing? I really love doing this thing. It takes me 10 hours a week. Great, let's not automate that, right? Because you actually enjoy doing that. So that's actually the fun part of your job. So if I take that away, you're going to resist. You're going to say, well, no, don't automate that because that's going to make my job suck. It's like that. I really enjoy doing that part of work. So I think it's finding things that just really suck the life out of people and helping them get rid of them. I think that wins you a lot of friends. Right.
Thank you very much, Troy. So I really like the page you are showing the gap between open source and the enterprises. Previously, I've been working in strategy and finance, so I really know. Yeah, exactly that one. I really know the data-wise, so security are very, very important.
Right.
So yeah, so now I really want to hear some opinion from you. Is there any immediate problem not being solved yet, but solvable?
Sorry, say again?
The security in enterprise that different from open source. So far, we really want to solve those kind of problems, like data in the team, in the company, in the financial statement. And is there any very crucial issues we want to solve at this moment?
You said financial statement. Is this within a financial department? I'm unclear on the.
Well, yeah, because I'm thinking of currently lots of not crucial things are open source, but some confidential stuff in the company-wise and team-wise, like data, are very important and cannot be open sourced anywhere. So, yeah. So currently, is there anything we really want to solve that?
Yes, got it. Okay, so sort of data privacy. Right. So if they're putting really confidential data into the system, how are we managing for that?
Yeah, because we probably really want to automate them and put them in the AI agent and use some prompt to automatically generate them and do some analysis. So that will save us a lot of time and energy, and in return give us some result that can help us to do the decision making in the next step.
Okay, so this comes up a lot, actually, and this is one of the reasons when we were originally going to do a SaaS play, like everybody, right? The 10,000th OpenAI wrapper, not that interesting to our clients that we were talking to at the time. And so, not to dismiss the ones who are winning, right? Because there are lots of good ones. But it wasn't working for us, for this particular type of customer. So we said, look, we're going to put the whole thing inside your data center, or actually inside your cloud, inside your tenant, inside a subscription. The whole thing's going to be locked down and vetted by your security team. And you're going to own the entire stack. Now, we could have also gone the last mile and started to deploy local models inside there, but the foundation model wars are, so amazing and they're moving so quickly, there was just no point in doing that. So what we did do is a half step towards that by saying, we're going to use Azure OpenAI models, meaning OpenAI copies of OpenAI models sitting in the Azure data center, run and managed by the Microsoft SRE team, not the OpenAI team. There's a weird nuanced distinction. But OpenAI runs inside the Microsoft data center and manages their own operations inside Microsoft. Microsoft runs the same thing, other copies of those same models in their own model serving infrastructure that the Microsoft SRE team runs. They actually have higher uptime than OpenAI does. So the customers were saying, great, so I understand now that I can put in my confidential finance data, I can put in my confidential M&A data, right? These high growth companies, PE backed, often doing a lot of acquisitions. I don't want that data going to OpenAI. I don't want to go to Google. I don't want it to go to Anthropic. I don't even know who they are. I'm certainly not sending it to Cohere or anybody else, right? I don't even know who these companies are, but I trust Microsoft, and I've always trusted Microsoft. And Microsoft has given me a rock solid commitment that they're not going to train on my data, and a liability shield for any IP that we create with the system. If somebody sues us, Microsoft will protect us. So that's how we got around it, is by putting it in Azure OpenAI, putting the entire architecture inside the client environment, and then running all the actual prompt conversations through Azure OpenAI models. That seems to have gotten us over the hump on that. Yeah. So.
I had one follow-up question regarding that. Does this apply even to like AWS Bedrock deployments, or did you guys look into that? Like, do clients trust Amazon models deployed on AWS, or is it only Microsoft that they trust?
I think it's client specific. I mean, this same client actually has a lot of infrastructure running in AWS that they already do a lot of work in, so they're totally comfortable with them as well. I think it's, they already trust their existing cloud providers, let me put it that way, and they don't really want to send anything to OpenAI. And plus, of course, OpenAI now has the lawsuit issue where they're now supposed to keep all their log data, and there's a bunch of other risks. Plus, they've had a lot of public, failures of privacy and data security.
So, is the main concern losing data to these foundational model companies, or what is?
Yeah, they don't trust them.
Okay.
They don't trust anything they say, so they don't want to send the data there.
Okay, so is that the main concern for most of those deployments, sending data to models, or are there like?
I think the whole security architecture is the concern. Like, where does this live? Are we doing it through SaaS? Is it being hosted somewhere? Right now, they have a real issue with that tool zoo, the 60 or 70 or 80 SaaS apps, because they're all kind of wrappers. They're all tied into OpenAI or some model on the back end. All those terms of service are suspect. And so your team is putting sales data and marketing data and all these things into 50 to 70 to 80 SaaS apps with unknown AI backends. And so that's actually leaking data out all over the place. Probably protected by corporate terms of service, probably, but not guaranteed. So the biggest issue, I think, is they just want to understand the overall architecture and design and try to secure that as much as they can. So I don't want to.
Thank you.
Hi. Thanks for that. I think it was an amazing presentation, and it really speaks the language. So My background is I'm a doctor. I've got a PhD in sleep medicine. We've been in FET since 2020. I run a VC doing a lot of stuff in AI, particularly AI with regards to health.
A little loud.
Oh, you can hear me, right? Yeah, so we're doing a lot of stuff now in AI, particularly AI related to health.
Sure.
And the issue, let's say, we have when building new systems or let's say investing in a new project is when they're built on, let's say, these black boxed LLMs, ChatGPT, Anthropic's models, so on and so forth, it's even when there's small, let's say, biases within the system that we don't understand, it pushes us towards a particular outcome. And when you scale that to enterprise level or even to population level deployment, when we don't understand what's going on, it becomes a massive concern when we try to make suggestions or, or push outcomes. And so it's a question about auditability and accountability, which is when you're working at enterprise level and you're making these decisions, let's say C-level, HR level, chatbot level, where is the accountability in how a decision was actually made? How do you circumvent that?
Yeah, so how do you handle the chatbots giving recommendations, and then how does the company audit or understand what that is and whether they should take that as an input?
In a sense, yeah. But when you scale this then to, let's say, other enterprise healthcare, the implications of something incorrect or not in a gray area become relatively large, right? You talk about health insurance, for example, a decision's made whether insurance should get approved. So how do you account for those decisions that are made and hold, who gets held to account, and how do you circumvent those decisions, those really crucial decisions that are made?
Yeah, okay, so who's on the hook for a decision that's taken, that may be influenced or even made by a system, right, that is an AI system? I think we've been wrestling, I came out of the sort of the pre-generative AI, the ML space, and they've been wrestling with this for years, right, insurance and their insurance claim adjustments and deciding who gets their policy paid for, who doesn't, and insurance claims. That was a traditional machine learning decision matrix. So I think we've been dealing with that for over 10 years, probably 7, 8, 9, 10 years. And I think that ultimately when we're doing this type of stuff, we're not in super regulated industries right now. So the stuff we're doing is, I would say, less mission critical than med tech, health tech, let's say insure tech, some of the other things. So we do a lot of training on this, and we do this for every single employee in the entire company, and we beat this all day long, which is you are responsible for your content. If you get any input from this system, and you should be using it all day, every day as your teammate, all those inputs absolutely must be signed off by you before you pass them to anybody else in the company. Your colleague, your direct report, your peer, your intern, your boss, it doesn't matter, your customer, your partner, it doesn't matter. If you pass something along, you are on the hook. And so don't ever come to the executive or your boss and say, oh, I'm sorry, the AI said it. That's not an excuse. If you do something that's catastrophically bad and you pass that data on, the AI is irrelevant. You created that data with or without an AI, passed it along, it was not correct, and it had a catastrophic effect on the company. That's just you causing a catastrophic effect on the company. So I think medical stuff is different, right? Because it has a different, you can get evaluation boards and get all sorts of different folks to vet the actual outputs and observability of like, how's it making the decisions? So I think there's a risk spectrum. What we're doing, I think the only place we're handling it right now is in policies. So we'll have the HR team and say, I want to have a policy bot. And I'm like, great. On the risk spectrum, an IT password policy is on the less risky end, and a vacation policy is on the more risky end, or a medical leave policy or a sabbatical policy, where if the user says, hey, how many vacation days do I get? And it says, you get 10,000 vacation days. And the user takes off for 10 years, and then the company sues them, right? Or vice versa. Or they sue and say, hey, I get 10,000 days, how come, you haven't paid me? So there can be serious legal risks on some of those things. And so we just qualify the heck out of it, tell everybody they're ultimately responsible for it, and then we tighten it down. Like we'll tighten it down, the model settings, drop the temperatures down, run lots and lots and lots more tests on them to make sure that we're getting the right results, and put really strong guardrails in the system prompts. Do not answer anything other than HR policy questions, right? Or defer to the HR team. If you have any doubt at all, just redirect them to a human, stuff like that. So I think guardrails, model settings, education, that's what we're doing.
I already had the mic. Thanks, Troy, for your presentation. I'm Alexis, and
Alexis.
I guess I have lots of questions for you, but my main question is, I was really impressed by the way you were customer focused, the way you're always learning from your clients, and the way that you fielded these questions. What do you think is the skill that makes you good at that, and then how did you learn it?
Oh, that's a meta question. I don't know. I started a consulting. The first business I had out of university, I actually joined a fellow who had a consulting company, IT consulting services company, and I just spent a lot of time being in customer service. I think that's probably it. Thank you, though. That's very nice.
Thank you, everyone. And that's it for Troy. Thank you so much. Let's hear it for Troy. Now we have the room till 8:15. Feel free to mingle, network, ask questions. We have our speakers here. FetchAI team is here. Troy is here. That's it. Thank you for coming. That's a wrap.